Moving on to number 7, the revised agenda has this as new business. We're going to start with topic A, which is a working on Whitby presentations by Nick Ritchie.
Hello. Jay, I think I emailed you the trailer, so you should be able to bring it up. It should. 1 second. Apologize.
Normally it's sitting right here. What'd you say, Britt? I couldn't hear you.
The website, outlook.com.
That's beyond me. I'm not gonna lie on here because this isn't my computer, so I'm not.
So Outlook isn't a part of Teams. Like you use the same website, but you don't get there's no mail service in Teams.
Oh,
Okay, if I lose you guys, I'll log right back on as soon as I can.
DJ.
it's right there. Oh, that was.
Sorry, they gave me an insanely long email or
Haven't changed it.
password,
It will never be hacked.
and I don't have it memorized.
That's on there. There it is, right. I'm hoping they can see it.
Yeah, you'll have to share your screen.
If not, I'll have to show it to people here, so. No one ever was like. Except.
I believe you go to your find download.
Go to
Right. My computer. Download. Good Lord. Figure it out.
it is. Let me see downloads.
Use
Well-
users.
Let me see if now that it's
Right.
loaded, maybe it'll start finding it.
Okay, you
Okay,
can
so-
pause.
And then
And
share.
of course, there's probably no sound here, right? Probably not. Let's see. On.
It's sound.
mean, the sound is on.
Oh, yeah.
I'm assuming it's gonna be screen. I'm sharing. There we go. Can you see that, Dave?
Yes, I can see.
Okay.
All right, let's hope this sound. So this was specially made for you guys, and this isn't necessarily what the public sees, so here you go. Hopefully there's sound, and there's no sound. Can you hear anything?
No, no sound.
Okay, so I might have to show it to you guys just on my computer. Sorry, David. Not gonna get to see it.
The full experience.
Right.
Maybe make it up.
That's what I was thinking too. This is just. Okay.
Because it's muted.
Is it me?
Oh, yeah, look at the bottom bar right next to the time.
Oh. Let's try it again. Nope. All right. Sorry, David, you're gonna miss out, man. I'll put this, I don't know, I guess you guys can see it, please want to see it over here. Just kind of see that.
Yeah.
Okay. Turn my sound on.
It's no secret that Deception Pass is the most visited place in Washington State. They come across the bridge. How do we get them into local businesses? We've created this series to bridge that gap. You ever wondered how the driving gets movies on the big screen? What goes into getting your favorite seafood dish to the table? Or what it takes to run the most mysterious inn in the Pacific Northwest? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I want to minute to answer those questions and more, taking you behind the scenes to learn what it takes to run the businesses that make Whidbey Island so special. I'm Nick Ritchie, and this is Working on Whidbey. See you soon.
Okay. So, Britt asked me to come here. I don't think Britt's here, right? Is she on? Oh, hi.
Hi.
So sorry.
It's okay.
So what is working on Whidbey? Why are you doing this? So David, I'm gonna turn my back to you. I'm not trying to be rude, man. So what is working on Whidbey? When I got here in '09, I've been here for 15 years now. I was stationed here. That's how I discovered what Whidbey Island was. And there's a self-sustaining economy on the base of close to $17 million. And I can say just from personal experience that if I didn't see things on social media, I didn't know they were here, which is sucks because we have everything on the island that we could need. We're self-sustaining, really don't need to leave the island to spend our money anywhere else. It's just a matter of getting exposure to the businesses here on the island. So really what this show is, and it's showcasing the businesses on the island, showcasing the people, the families, all the way from the south end up to the north end. And we've got episodes in the can. So if you've gone to YouTube to our channel, we did one on Blue Fox and we've done one at Chris's Bakery. But the plan, the dream is to do at least 10 more episodes this year. And we're seeking funding right now. We're seeking sponsors. I would rather not have to go the sponsor route. I would rather tap into grants, other things that are here, so that we can approach a business, on the whole island and say, hey, we really love your story. We really love to have you on the show. And these episodes run 15 to 20 minutes. So it's in the same vein as Dirty Jobs, Anthony Bourdain, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, things like that. So the episodes run 15 to 20 minutes long. After looking at a lot of analytics on YouTube and things like that, I'm starting to think that the better direction for it is to go 12 to 13 minutes, as it turns out, we don't have very good attention spans. But when we approach these businesses, we do a show on them, and then we flip up a whole bunch of stuff for their social medias. So we give them YouTube Shorts, we give them Reels, we give them TikToks. We want to try to give them at least like a month worth of content, quality content that's being pumped out. So myself, I'm the host. I have a producer, Ty Tween, who's not here. He's filming in DC right now, and Willie Shaw. And I'm sure you guys are probably familiar with Willie Shaw. He's a great videographer. And then we have Brett Baird from Handsome and Gretel, the local band, does our sound. So as you can imagine, the production is top tier. It looks like something that belongs on a streaming service, which if things go the way that I think they will, eventually we'll shop it to them. But for now, this is kind of where we're at, and we want to tell the story of Whidbey. And sure, I'm sure tourism is going to be an after effect of the show, but that's not the heart or the core of the show. The core of the show is to tell stories about people on Whidbey to other people on Whidbey, and especially to reach that demographic on base, the 18 to 45, by creating this type of content so that they know things are here and they're not driving off the island with their money. I love Whidbey Island. I'm sure all of you wouldn't be here if we did it. But this is, so far we've got a great response. If you look at our YouTube channel, we're getting comments like, I've never been to the drive-in. I've lived here for 4 years. I'm going now. Things like that. So that's really encouraging. Another thing, when we have an entity like the Chamber or the Clinton Chamber, I'm going to go give them a presentation also. But the idea is to take the episodes and then allow you guys to have it so that you can embed it on your website, so that you can embed it wherever you want. And it's telling the story about Whidbey Island. It's giving you quality content on your website, things like that. And right now, the only cost that we have is the work that my producer, my director, the cameraman, the sound guy are putting in. All right. So basically the rest is going towards gas money and food and craft services at this point. So we would really love an opportunity to work with you guys. If somewhere that we fit, I'm meeting with the Whidbey EMS guys tomorrow, actually. When you brought that up, I was like, oh yeah, let's meet this guy. And it's interesting because they're like, oh yeah, we got a levy coming up, we got this. And I don't want to politicize the show in any form or fashion, but if it can help them get the money that they're looking for, then we would love to help. Yeah, we would love to help. Because I think that, voters only vote for things that they know about and understand. And we love to break things down. If you haven't had an opportunity to watch the Blue Fox episode, I would encourage you to do so. I think it's good, but of course I'm biased. So I just want to put that out there. And did you guys have any questions? Because I know this is completely new. We're looking at LTAX funding. We don't fit into that application because we're not a 501. We're looking for grant money. There's film grants, there's things like that. Right now, the cost, we've got a budget. We're at $145,000 for 10 episodes right now. One has been sponsored already. We did the one at Blue Fox basically for free because we wanted to get it out there and get the product out there. And of course, we're not looking for funding in one spot because then we feel obligated to only film in Oak Harbor, and that's not what we want to do. We want to be able to feature the ferries down south. We want to be able to feature Nichols Brothers, Alter House, Meerkat Gardens. I mean, the amount of great places on Whidbey Island, we know there's a lot, and we want to cover those things and tell everyone about them that live here. And if tourism happens because of it, then that's okay. Uh-oh. Gave me this though. But yeah, this is just, if you want more detailed information on this or what the cost of an episode is, or teaming up because we're going to do presented by or sponsored by, however it's going to make sense for you guys, then I can get you that information. We're currently in talks with LCAS, a whole bunch of other places that might not necessarily need the grant money, right? They might be able to do this on their own. But yeah, we're excited. It's something brand new. It's something that I think the island has needed for a long, long time. There's nothing wrong with print. There's nothing wrong with the way that we've been doing things, but I think we've been doing them repeatedly the same year over year, and we're getting the same type of results. So I just encourage you guys to, I know it's hard to think out of the box and it's kind of like, what's this guy talking about? And I get it. But if you guys have any questions for me, I'd be more than happy to answer. And if I don't have the answer, my producer, Ty, he's worked out all, he understands all the ins and outs of the budget and things like that. So I can definitely get you answers that you get to see. Yeah, we're excited, and I think the community is too. So, and I want to take everyone with us, if that makes sense, because I think if the show does well and it's being shared on multiple platforms with you, whatever site you have, it's going to lend more credibility, all of those things, and it'll just level up everything. So, yeah, that's it.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So far, it's a lot of fun. I'm taking a lot of these meetings, and that's okay, part of the job. But yeah, yeah, no problem. Yes,
You said you were looking for sponsorships. Do you have a sponsorship package that you're handing out?
we do. We have a tiered package right now. Right now, I believe the cost of one full episode is about 14,000, and that includes all of the boosting on Instagram, all of those things, and the same with Facebook and things like that. But when we share whatever we do, like for the Oak Harbor Chamber website, for example, we would collaborate with them, and it would look just like their post also. So whoever we have on our page is drawing them into your page, and vice versa, and we can share it across 5 people, and they're tiered, right? So I think the first one is like 2,000, the second one is 7. I do have the paperwork for it also too. So, but yeah, I mean, and then just the amount of content that you're going to have to post is super valuable. I mean, it's going to be the same production quality that you're seeing throughout the show too. So that's not going to change. It's not going to be on a phone or anything. It's going to be fully filmed, fully edited, all those things for you guys. So
It looks great.
yeah, it's very, very good. Again, if you guys haven't a chance, David, it's working on Whidbey on YouTube. And you can check out the full episode there. I'll warn you, it's 21 minutes long, so you're gonna have to sit down. But again, that's where attention spans come in. So we're kind of perfecting things, and that may affect the cost also. If we're reducing the amount of time that the episode is, then hopefully that will reduce the editing time, because that's really where the cost comes into play. When you have 100 hours of editing on a 20-minute show,
Yeah.
it can get, that's really where the cost is, to be completely honest with you. So, but that lends to the credibility. It lends to, again, just watch the show, your mind will be blown.
Yeah.
It's not because I'm in it, I'm just a meat puppet talking. Those guys tell me what to do, and they're great. But yeah, we're really excited about it. It's a new territory, so I understand people are skittish or standoffish, and I get it. This is completely new. So yeah, we would love to work with you guys in really any capacity. Shane was giving us a tour of the pool, and I gotta say, a great episode with all of the lights in there, the filtration system. It's really just kind of mind blowing to learn about just those facts and the history of it and where the levy money went. And I don't think a whole lot of people know that that's the cleanest pool, like probably in the United States, from what he was saying, with the way that the bulbs work and the filtration and everything else. He was telling me about something that had to do with diarrhea. I apologize. But it's like one of the only systems that kills it, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that was in there. Thanks for ruining all the rest of it.
All I remember is like billions of pine rods.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So, I mean, yeah, we're super excited about it, and we're hoping that it'll take off, and then bigger and better things next year. We're able to apply for grants. If it is fully funded, then there are grants with the Washington Film Association, but it has to be fully funded. So, and we're looking at those things too. We're very excited. This is scary territory even for me, because this has not been done, like at all, not here. But I certainly think it will help us as a community, as a whole Whidbey Island community stand out. Be like no other place, so.
Well, if it helps at all of the feedback I've heard about it, there's a lot of people, we need that.
Yeah,
I don't think people are scared of it. I think people are eager for it.
yeah, it's just a matter of finding funding at this point, and then my producer will shop at say Amazon and things like that next year, and because I do think there's a national audience for a place like this. And if there's not, I have thought about, well, we could do island living and island pop, you know, and would be included, so. But that's further on in the future. But there's just so many, I mean, I think they could probably do 100 episodes here easily. Easily could do it, so. That's my spiel, and,
Thank you so much for coming.
Can you send me your packages?
yeah. And then, if you need to contact me, it's workingonwhidbey@gmail.com. So maybe, Jay, if you could just send me an email if you remember.
I'm writing it.
Working on gmail.com.
Is that the email that you sent me the presentation on?
Very scary territory for me too, so. But very cool at the same time.
Yeah, it's a much needed.
I've been getting a lot of phone calls from businesses, like a lot, and you'd be shocked. And again, that's why we want it to be funded, because there are great places around here that don't necessarily make money hand over foot every month. They're more family oriented and just kind of happy. And everybody has their own definition of happiness. Sometimes that doesn't include a lot of money. So to be able to approach a business and say, we really love this story, we really want to tell your story, let us tell it, and not have to charge them. And when it comes down to like chamber members also, then you have those members sharing those clips and then including you. You know, I'll show everybody how to do that, but it's, you know, it can be very, very useful for everyone. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for having me, guys. I'll let you get back to your fun pool.
Yeah.
I know there's much more than that. I'm not going to simplify it. But thank you so much for having me, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Jane's back. Huh?
Hit the next to leave, hit the red, don't, over, yeah. You know, directly next to the word leave, there's stop sharing.
Oh, thank you.
I think David's been staring at his face the entire time instead of being able to see us. But if you are gonna share the agenda, then you would go back to.
I couldn't get it to log over.
Oh, okay,
And
yeah,
it just kept spinning.
got it.
You guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Yeah.
Probably. Okay. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Can we go back for 10 seconds, because we went through the consent agenda? There were some amendments to the minutes that I wanted to make. And I did that, but okay. I mean, they were amendments that you wanted to make too, and you voted on it, so. But we got those made. Not the ones we talked about earlier about the employee recognition. My name was misspelled in a couple of places in the minutes. And I'm not really picky about that, but
Yeah, that's a fair point. I would.
like, is that allowed? Are we allowed to pedal? Because it didn't, like, it's
Technically not.
seems like, okay, so it's done. Cool. That's fine. It's done.
I'll know for next.
Yes.
But didn't you update the minutes to include Amanda?
So
Isn't there a new version?
I did update them and then I was printing them to bring here, but then when I got to the printer, everything I sent to the printer had been spread out everywhere. So I don't know what happened to them. I thought they were in the pile that I brought with, but then you guys went through the pile and they weren't there. But I didn't know that until I actually got here.
Should we recall the vote then?
And that next meeting?
I can research it for the next meeting, how to do it. I don't know how to do it right here.
David, are you ready?
I am. Are you guys ready? Okay, so talking about OPMA, Open Public Meeting Act. There's three different things going on here. We've got in the blue sheet, we've got the definitions from the revised Code of Washington. The next page would be the MRSC printout with the tips, MRSC being an assistance organization. And then there's some slides, all alluding to an annual training for all of us so that we know all we're doing about, or we know what we need to know for this Open Public Meeting Act. For this particular one, I'm gonna let the revised Code of Washington printout and the MRSC thing kind of speak for themselves, and I'll briefly go through the slides. All three of them say pretty much the same thing in just different words, different ways of saying the same thing. So I'm kind of I'll skip through pretty quickly because the slides are very detailed, but I would recommend keeping these by your side if you're thinking about doing any kind of meetings or if you're having interactions with other commissioners. So I'm going to skip all the way down to slide 5. The simplest way to define a meeting affected by OPMA is a situation where an action is taken, an action being any discussion, decision, resolution, or other actions which affect policy or procedures. It can include formal and informal meetings and electronic communication. Information is collecting facts without discussion. A meeting is in person, phone, text, or email, etc. And a quorum is more than half of the governing body being present. So we talk about a serial meeting. This comes up sometimes in electronic communication, an event where discussion ensues, usually in an email or text message where back and forth discussion occurs. That's what we're going to try to avoid. We're going to try to avoid these serial meetings, and that's what we can easily get wrapped into, and why we're having this discussion today. I mentioned that we talk mostly about electronic communication. I'm going to come back to that because I think that's where we need to spend a little bit of time highlighting. I think we're pretty careful with special meetings. We're very careful with regular meetings because we've always put out the proper documentation to say that we're going to have this meeting, the public is being notified. Where we can sort of get in trouble, or not necessarily in trouble, but maybe commit a violation, is when we have meetings of a different sort, where we have committee meetings where we haven't notified the public. If we have a quorum at these meetings and we allow discussion to ensue where we potentially take an action on something, or if we're communicating by email, again with a quorum, and we allow discussion to further an agenda item. Doing that would be considered a violation, so we're going to try to avoid that. Using the printout from MRSC is a good way to, it allows you to have some practice tips, or it has some practice tips on there on how to avoid that. Going back to the special meetings and workshops, as I mentioned before, we usually do a notification ahead of time. If we do an impromptu meeting, or two people are talking in the hallway, we just have to be careful that the information is allowed to be passed, but we can't further a discussion, and we can't we can't take an action. Electronic communication, we kind of went back and forth on this with using the blind carbon copy fields. As you guys all know, I was a little bit against this at first, but I did take a look at some of the MRSC guidelines, read what the insurance company has to say. but the real reason for the blind carbon copy that is recommended by MRSC and the insurance company is to avoid the serial meeting. We'll kind of circle back to the serial meeting. We can use the blind carbon copy so that it doesn't allow us to reply to all and create a meeting or create an action from that. So again, I'll back off of that one and we'll allow that to keep on happening. Violations, kind of the final topic here. If we do have unintentional violations, they are covered by our insurance if the organization is sued by a member of the public. However, intentional violations are a personal liability, and the individual commissioner would be responsible for fines, personal fines, yeah. It's a good idea to watch these tips and tricks and follow the rules. If you do find yourself having committed a violation, if, for example, 3 commissioners are in the lobby of the pool discussing something and something moves toward not a vote, but 3 commissioners have agreed that something needs to move forward in a way, it's best to back away from that, schedule a special meeting, notify the public, and then rediscuss at that special meeting so that that violation can, or that that action can be properly notified, or the public can be properly notified of that action. And with that, I will end this training for now, and I encourage everybody to take a look at the slides and the handouts.
Thank you so much.
Good stuff, David. Thank you.
I think I'm right back behind this one again. Oh, no, I'm not. We gotta go somewhere else. Never mind. Sorry, scrolling on an iPad. I don't have the papers to look through.
All right, so we will move on to committee review and consideration. I don't know if you guys had a chance to review my email for bylaws. Or what your interpretation, if you have, what was your interpretation?
I did not look yet. Fine. I read through it and didn't see anything that glaring in the eyes that struck me. I will need to take a deeper dive.
The bylaws. My take on it was, it says that the chair serves as an ex officio member of all committees. Now, do we interpret that that means that I don't hold an actual seat on any committees? Or,
I don't think that's meant to exclude chair from holding an actual seat. It's saying that you have an ex officio seat on all committees. But I think if you were to take a position on a committee, then that would supersede the ex officio duties.
I would agree with your interpretation. Because with the amount of boards and the amount of commissioners, I think, spreading that between 4 of us and then having you kind of oversee all of them doesn't make a lot of sense. It would make more sense for you to have a seat in 1 or 2, and then in the one that you don't have a voting seat in, that's where I determine the ex officio, tiebreaker deal.
is everybody okay with moving forward the way we have been?
And
I kind of agree with everything that's on the table.
Then we will move right along. So 7D is review or performance review of our executive director. So we are looking to do the review for 2023. the review does need to be done by current seated elected commissioners. We had gone back and forth, but that was the final word for our attorneys. We are a little behind the curve this year. So Jay has actually sent out an email to all commissioners that there are two attachments. There is a scoring sheet and her job description. What I am looking for is to have these completed by the July meeting. And then in the July meeting, we will hold an executive session to do the review. And bylaw committee. Just to put something in place, because over the past few years, the reviews kind of shifted back and forth a lot. My suggestion would be to add something to the bylaws stating that all future reviews should be done in April of each year, because that is the anniversary of Jay's hiring, and that is a pretty standard practice.
I'm gonna reword it to not be Jay's review.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Dee's review during
Then
the
it
hire.
being set to April, I would just say, as we do in the county, the anniversary month of the
Yeah.
hire.
That's the verbiage that I was putting
Yeah.
on, using David, that
Does that sound doable for everybody? Yes, Jay.
And
Good with me.
this is just for past history so that you're aware, not saying that you have to do it that way. In the past, they had one commissioner collect them all and consolidate them into one for the executive session. And so they typically were due before the meeting they were going to discuss it. It might want to be something that you consider so that you're not in executive session for a long time, computing all that together, if that makes sense.
Was there ever a specific person that did that, or?
I think it was just whoever volunteered to do it.
Do you have any volunteers for this?
You just put her on the draw.
The only applicable motion would be to amend the bylaw, so when we get that, we'll just.
when is your goal, who wants to discuss this during July special meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
So due date a week before the July meeting.
July special meeting or the July meeting?
Regular.
Okay. And then we'll go into executive session during July regular meeting. Okay.
And give the feedback.
Melissa, did you want us to email it to you?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
So with that, I know I had initially set a special meeting for July 11th to go over the performance review. The plan we just set in place is appropriate. Are there any other items that we may want to do a special meeting for, or should we cancel?
That will be the primary purpose of that meeting, as long as we're up to date on everything else. We're feeling pretty good about where we are with the M&O proposal, then I would be okay with skipping that meeting.
I would agree. With 4th of July coming up, Whidbey Wags, all of the carnival. Saying our new plan is a better plan.
You guys online have any input on that?
I had a hard time hearing that. What did you say about those dates?
We're looking at skipping the special meeting because primarily we were going to be discussing the executive director evaluation, but what we decided now is to have our inputs 1 week prior to the regular meeting. So Melissa, so she can collate those and pretty much negating the need for that meeting unless you see another reason to keep that on the books.
Nope, I'm good with that.
I'm good with that also.
And I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm exhausted and my brain's not functioning, but I did have something to add for committees. So as we were going through the M&O process, because the board had originally agreed to having a blended board, and we are not moving forward with the MPD at this time. What I have decided to do is to go ahead and implement an interagency
Committee, interagency committee.
an interagency committee. Yeah. I have invited two so far, Eric Marshall and Carrie Steck. I'm not familiar enough with Board of Education or Iowa commissioners to talk about that now yet.
Another question, it's an interagency committee. What agency is Carrie Stuckey you represent?
She is the chair of the Parks and Rec committee for the city.
So we're gonna have two representatives from the city.
Yeah, ex officio. Yeah, and it's something that the logistics are being worked out. So I will have more information, but I wanted to let you know. I know Carrie's popped in and out, but that was why.
And this committee is strictly advisory in nature, correct?
Strict. Any questions, comments, concerns?
What other agencies are you looking at?
I was looking to mirror what we had talked about with the NPD with city, county, and Board of Education, if there's interest.
Okay.
And we'll just see how that goes. Committee reports.
Are you ready for me? For the programs?
Yep.
Okay, so agenda item number 8A1, I think it's still that right number. This is a proposal for describing definitions. The program committee was tasked to analyze programs and services and specifically define each to better allow commissioners to make decisions on pricing, revenue, and budget. For discussion, the program committee evaluated several programs and services offered and the pricing structure assigned to each. The committee determined that there's a baseline of expectation, but it's unclear what is funded by front desk revenue and what is funded by tax revenue. So therefore, the program committee proposes to the Board of Commissioners that the programs and services shall be broken into 4 categories. The program definitions are as follows. Service. Service is something that by nature is available to every patron who participates in North Whidbey Pool Park and Recreation events and within the facility. Services are property tax levy funded. They come at no additional front desk costs. Services include facilities maintenance and upkeep, administrative staff, basic pool management, chemicals, supplemental funding for youth and underprivileged programs, electricity and other utilities, lawn maintenance, and site improvements. Programs, publicly available amenity that is paid for through front desk revenue, or also known as retail. Some examples of the program are swim lessons, aerobics, volleyball, open swim, basketball, and other organized activities that require equipment. officials, certified staff presence, and facilities use fees. Supplemented programs, like a program above, but are typically discounted either through supplemental funding listed under services or discounted based on the assumption of long-term guaranteed revenue, such as an ILA, which extends multiple years, which may include partnerships with other government and non-government organizations to facilitate and or staff to use facilities and or staff to expand access to their patrons. Supplemental programs are not free, they're discounted. And then finally, we have activity. Activity is an event that occurs under the recreation program that has either no additional staff costs besides recreation coordinator and or is partnered with outside government and non-government organizations and has little to no expected revenue or expenses and is not expected to generate a profit. Upon approval of the definitions by the BOC, the program committee will further analyze each service and program and return recommendations to the BOC for assignment in each category. So given that, as I mentioned, we have 4 categories: the service, the program, supplemented program, and activity. And I'll turn it over for discussion.
Question. So
Yep.
under service, one of the items listed is supplemental funding for youth and underprivileged programs. Is that not supplemented programs?
It is, but that's how we pay for it. So supplemented program would be a program that's paid for somehow, some other way besides front desk revenue. And that's where the service comes in. The service is taxpayer funded. So in reality, we have 2 things that are revenue, 2 revenue categories. We have services and programs, but we can't just put everything in the box of programs and say everything that's a program has to be paid for through front desk revenue. We have to be able to say that some of this is going to be supplemented programs. For example, the swim lessons we talked about for the school recently. If we were to charge front desk revenue on all the swim lessons, we would be charging retail price on them. And realistically, that program would end up going away. But if we call that a service, then it becomes free, taxpayer funded. So we find ourselves somewhere in the middle where we have a supplemented program. So that supplemental funding under service is that funding, the taxpayer funding that helps to pay for that program.
Now I understand. Would it be possible to add right before supplemental provides? So if we provide supplemental funding for youth and underprivileged.
Oh, yeah, sure, absolutely.
I don't see where in the definition you want to add the word provides.
It's under services. It's like the second to last line, third to last line of service.
Okay. I was looking under something on the front. Okay. Okay.
Anything else? Commissioner?
Or
Is that a motion?
Okay, myself, I'm going to privilege. I move to approve the definitions described above and list them in the standing rules of the North Whitby Pool Park and Recreation District Board of Commissioners.
Well, I second it.
I would like to open the minute.
Open for discussion now.
Yes, so instead of underprivileged, I would like to replace that verbiage with income eligible.
I like it. See, I was hiding with it, but I just couldn't figure out what to put there.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
And in place of the word underprivileged, we'd like to propose that reads income eligible.
Okay, I like it too. I didn't really like the word, but I needed to put something there.
No, I get it. That's
Yeah.
why we're.
Well, that's what the
here.
workshop is for, yeah. All right, so provide supplemental funding for youth and income eligible programs. Okay,
Well, I still second the motion as amended.
And interject.
Yeah.
We don't have standard.
oh,
We did talk about that at our last meeting about creating them.
Yeah, but in order to
okay,
pass this, we would have to already have them.
so I'd like
So
to
this is
amend.
our first one, because I have two more.
Yeah, I saw.
I'll amend my motion to approve the definitions described above as amended, and we'll discuss the standing rules when we come up with that at a later time. So just strike standing rules from my entire motion before.
So what's your motion?
I move to approve the definitions described above. For the purposes of the vote would be, so as amended, for the purposes of the vote would be full park and rec.
Okay, I second that one.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Carried.
Who's unmuted, but Jamie, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
No, I think I said I, and then I was still on mute.
Okay,
That's why I asked if there was a nay, so, because I didn't.
yeah, I just forgot, yeah, but it's being recorded, so I'll just come back to it later, it's fine.
All right, moving on to proposal to consider startup costs separately from revenue.
Okay, agenda item 8A2. Background on this one, the program committee is analyzing the cost and benefit of several new programs. In doing so, we come to conclude that when the program is started, equipment costs can dramatically increase the necessary revenue to make a program profitable in the first year. Under this formula, programs are doomed to fail before they're ever launched. The program committee proposes that startup costs, such as equipment, may be considered separately from ongoing operating expenses when considering the cost benefit of a proposed program. In one example, a program may have $300 in equipment requirements for the first year, but the expectation is the equipment will have a lifespan of 10 years. Therefore, the equipment costs for the second and subsequent years may be $0 to $30. The difference in the formula could in some cases dramatically skew the necessary entry fees that must be charged to make a program break even. I'm sorry, that's supposed to say break even, not event. Additionally, the value of the purchased items is typically maintained for a period, making the purchase an asset that can be recorded on the balance sheet. So therefore, the program committee proposes that in future program proposals, the startup equipment be listed separately from the basic cost revenue formula that is currently used in the BOC decision-making process.
Any discussion?
I read through that earlier and it makes a lot of sense to me, and it certainly seems like it would be fiscally responsible, especially if we advertise the expected life cycle of the equipment that we're buying, and then it doesn't make it so onerous to start something up, especially if we have to show that it makes profit in the first year. So I support it as it's written.
Commissioner Guy, I did change the motion for the executive director and or their designee, just so that because they're Board of Commissioners standing rules are what you guys are beginning to create, and I'm the only employee technically that can be directed by the board. But the program committee, we do always go through that together, Julie and I, but I just wanted to make sure that I called to point that out so that you were aware that I made that change.
Perfectly fine with me.
By motion. In the rule, there are a few things that I wanted to note. When written out, North Whitby Pool Park and Recreation does use the Oxford comma. Just for standardization. Another suggestion would also be to, when we are putting new rules into either the standing rules or the bylaws, try to avoid pronouns and also try to maintain a active voice instead of fluctuating between active and passive. They could probably explain that better than I can. Does that make sense?
So do you have a recommendation to take out that pronoun?
So I would replace it with I would just go with the new program. I know it's tedious, but it keeps from having confusion down the road.
Are we talking about there?
It. The second sentence.
Okay.
But do you also want to change the word there to a designee?
Yeah.
So you're also saying take out it and make it what, the BOC?
Yeah. Or the board.
Okay.
That there is okay here, because it's not being used in the he, she, they. It's there. This is the original
Yeah.
meaning of the word there, and I think it's absolutely acceptable to use that instead of pulling it out and watering it down to a designee. It's their designee.
And I think, yeah, I would agree because their designee gives that person the ED's power. A designee could be, oh, I designate to do, you know, you to do this, and then I designate you to do that, and then like it muddies the water. So I would agree that I think the word there, because it's that person's designee.
Yeah, I think that's actually important there because it needs to describe the executive director's designee, not just any designee. In this case, I would agree that there needs to be there. And
There.
So will the program committee work with us to create the new sheets and how they want those laid out for presentation and figuring that out?
of course, yes. But I don't think we're changing anything in the formula per se. We're just taking out the equipment costs or the startup costs to look at those separately.
So we currently carry those costs when we're planning into, we do one sheet that is supply related, and then we carry that cost over into the expense side. So if you want us to show it someplace else, we can easily do that. Just we can work with the committee to
Yeah,
create that.
yeah, I think that would be something that we discuss in the committee. And ultimately, we're the ones that are going to pitch it to the board anyway. So we need to make sure that we're not giving false hope.
So since we do not have standing rules and we'll be developing them, should that go to the bylaw committee?
Well, for this purpose, I think we can just do this with the minutes, and then we can put it in the standing rules later. But if we were to, per se, if we approve a motion, not necessarily with the standing rules, but I'm willing to put the motion on the table.
The motion be put forth where the quotation marks are, and then it's not.
That's exactly what I was thinking, just starting at the quotation mark.
And then
So, I'm sorry.
there was one change.
And concluding with as written and amended.
I didn't get any of that.
So you conclude the motion with as written and amended.
Mm-hmm.
I will second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Carries unanimously. Committee, you're up again. Proposal for
Yes, ma'am.
water.
So we need to actually skip down a page. So that's number 4. We need to go to number 3, which is, I think, on the next page.
Sorry, I have mine backwards. Okay.
So this one is the proposal to remove the 20% markup from the first session of new programs. Similar to the previous agenda item, the program committee recognizes that the first session of a program may be difficult to show a profit using the current adopted formula due to the possibility of lower participation while a program launches and word spreads. A lower cost to the patron would be more attractive and bring more people in to the new programs. Therefore, the program committee recommends that with each new program, the Board of Commissioners evaluate a program for the first session with less participants and without the 20% markup, and the second session with the expected number of participants and the 20% included. This will allow the program to have a fighting chance with a reasonable price to the patron while adequately covering the costs. Now, I'm sure that's probably confusing. So, if you want to open it up for discussion, I can talk a little bit more.
Yeah, let's move into discussion.
So, I'm gonna kind of use the item number 4 as an example. We are going to, in the next session or next agenda item, propose water volleyball. So the 20% markup is almost a killer for the program. We expect this program to bring 32 participants. However, if it only brings 27 participants or 24 participants, this 20% markup could be a deal killer for it. And it would cause the expense on it to be so great that it would just not be, it wouldn't be attractive to anybody, because we would have to have the price so high that it wouldn't be attractive. We would end up, again, just kind of like the last agenda item, it would be doomed to fail before it even starts. So by taking out the 20%, we're allowing ourselves to have a lower participation rate, but we still break a profit without, I'm sorry, by taking out the 20%, we are still breaking a profit with less participants, on the first session. And then as word gets out and we expect to reach our target number, in this case 32 participants, we can add that 20% back into the formula, and we would still be breaking a profit at that point.
So this sounds good, looks good on paper, but there's a bit of conjecture here. And what I would like to discuss is maybe putting a sunset clause in this so that after a year, 2 years, we take a look and see how this is working. And it will force us to take that look and see, is this working? If not, then we revisit that 20%. So I like the idea. I like the concept of, okay, this could get more people in earlier, which should equate to more people in the second season and making it easier to make a profit. But if it doesn't work that way, I want to have us take set a date to look at this and take a look at that. That sounds simple.
Last process lasted 4 months.
Sorry?
Yeah, I agree with Bill. Our last, sorry, Commissioner Larson, the last modification we did for this lasted for about 4 months. Or we realized that we needed to pivot.
So I guess my question is, would a year be inadequate? That give us an adequate number of programs to look at to see if this is viable and working the way we want it to work.
So we're looking.
So I'm wondering if instead of saying a year, could we make it a number of sessions? For example, we have some activities, I'm sorry, let me use the correct term. We have some programs that may that may do 1 session a year, and some programs that may do 4 sessions a year. So if we were to reevaluate something on a 1-year basis, and they only do 1 session a year, that might not be an adequate time for them to meet that goal. Whereas if we were to give them a session number, like we give them 3 sessions or 4 sessions, I think 4 would be the highest number I would consider.
I think 3 sessions would be okay, because that gives us enough of a track record to look at it, just to make an informed decision down the road.
Anything else? Do you have a motion on the floor?
Yes. So I'd like to make a motion that when a proposal for a new program or supplemented program is presented to the board for approval, the proposal shall be evaluated by the executive director and their designee or their designee. It will use the currently adopted cost revenue formula as of the date of this request. Startup expense. Wait, am I reading the wrong one? No, I'm sorry. Yeah. Startup expenses and equipment will be considered separately from the operating expense, and expected revenue. Equipment purchases may be logged as minor expenses. The first session of a program will not include the markup to give programs a better chance at success with lower expected attendance. Entry costs will be determined using the expected attendance at a second and subsequent session, and programs will be evaluated after 3 sessions to determine continuance. I'm sorry, that was a continuation. I should have mentioned that. That was a continuation off the previous rule. And that's why it was so long. So in this case, let me retract that and say the motion would be the first session of a new program will not include the markup to give programs a better chance of success with a lower expected attendance. Entry costs will be determined using the expected attendance at the second and subsequent sessions, and programs will be evaluated after 3 sessions to determine continuity.
the continuity, I'd like it to read feasibility of this pricing structure.
Feasibility. Okay, I like that word.
I will second the motion as amended.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Ms. Garrett? Did you?
Okay. Agenda item 8A4. Program committee recommends the implementation of a water volleyball league. The details are as follows. This will be a 6-week program on Saturdays from 12 to 1 p.m. The registration goal is 32 participants of all ages on 4 teams of 8, but this can be done with as little as 4 on a team. Startup expenses are expected to be $327 for a few equipment items to upgrade current assets to support 2 volleyball courts at the same time. At $35 per participant for the season, revenue would equal $1,120. In session 1, expenses, I'm sorry, that's not the right expense. Session 1 expenses, wait, I wrote this wrong. This is revenue for session 1. It's not expenses, it's revenue, sorry. So in session 1, we are expecting.
Yeah, you got that right. The revenue was 1120 for 35.
Oh, yeah.
35.
I'm sorry, the expenses were the, yeah, okay, you're right. I'm sorry. Because I'm looking at the other expenses, not just the $327 for equipment. So this does include the $327. This would be the pool use and those types of things. So the expenses are $1,110.58 for session 1. And it leaves a profit of $9.42 for session 1.
And this
And
is
after
under,
those,
this is under the old
sorry?
form. This is under the old formula, right?
It is, yes. And then session 2, the expenses would be $793.58 because we wouldn't have to buy any new equipment, and it would leave a profit of $326.42. And that would go for each additional season session.
Jay and Julie, do you guys have? Hi. What you got?
So I think there may be a calculation problem, and I wasn't at this meeting though, so maybe Dave, you can talk to me about it. What it looks like from the program planning sheet is that this is only for 3 lanes, but the discussion was, and where the supplies come in, was for 6 lanes. Because the $327 is actually the cost with tax to build another volleyball net. And the purpose of that was to have it go all across the whole pool to limit the amount of hours that they were running the program. And so that's where I think that the admin fee should have been $720, but I'm wondering if you guys had a conversation in that meeting that I'm unaware of that would have only been charging the 18 hours, or because right now it's based on 3 lanes.
There was a
6
conversation
lanes.
in that meeting.
Okay.
There was. And the reason for that is because they are using 6 lanes, but they're only using the shallow end of the pool. They're not using the deep end of the pool. So in theory, something else could happen in the deep end of the pool.
Oh, okay. So they're not expecting during that program to have the whole pool to themselves. You could still have another activity on the other side.
There could still be another activity in the deep end of the pool.
Okay, but
It's just like for our water volleyball, a regular water volleyball, that's calculated and charged based on the whole lane because we don't have anything else programmed for the other half. We could.
I mean, we could, I mean, I see where
I'm
you're going with it, and it makes sense because we technically could put in like, have Pete come and teach kayak rolling right? In the deep end, and he
Yeah.
only uses the deep end. Or we could allow lap swimming to go the deep end with instead of the
Mhm.
lane. So I understand now. That helps me understand a little bit better. Thank you.
Is it reasonable to expect that we could get somebody to use the deep end?
Not right away in the first time that they did this, probably, but it is something we could advertise and say, hey, we are going to allow lap swimming the width of the pool during this event and see how it goes and allow people to come in. Yeah, they have to, but
Maybe
I-
independent.
well, I do know that we don't have lap lanes, but people swim without lap lanes all the time, right? They just, they would have to know that coming in, because we don't have widthway lane lanes.
There's not really a way for them to do this.
They'll pull themselves out of the pool, right?
Right, they're already using their arms and then having to.
I mean, I think if you're, I know that we've had where it's only been deep water and they just come to the side of the pool and they hang off.
Okay, going back to clarify, this program, you ran all of these numbers with that 20% markup, correct?
Originally, Chad
Yes.
and Julie did, and then Chad and Julie had a conversation that it was just too expensive. They didn't see families being able to do that. And Chad brought the conversation, or no, Julie brought the conversation to me and said, hey, we did this, but it really looks like it's too expensive. And so I had put it as part of Chad's 30, 60, 90 days as a way to work with the board and try and figure out a way that maybe we could do programs that were different, because like trying to do a family water volleyball event was becoming cost prohibitive in the current.
So the way it's written right now does not include the 20% markup at the $35.
It,
per participant.
according
does.
to this, it does,
Okay.
right? Is
Yes,
that
it
what we
does.
forget? Yeah, because right now, what I did is I went into the file and I pulled up his planning sheet.
Yeah.
And right now, and it's not on here, but right now it's $185.10 at the 20%. If you take out that and you take out the 327 equipment expense, why do you want me to take out the equipment?
Well, because we're not separating that from startup cost.
Oh, then you make 521.51 and
$7 per resident as a daily admission with a punch card, $5.95. $59.50 for 10 visits.
It's $7.
Oh, I see. So for the season, so that $35 is for all 6
Yeah,
sessions.
so it's like buying 5 and getting free. I'd be willing to give this a try.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, yeah. And especially if down the road, we could try to line up the same hour where we're doing kayak rolling, or maybe there's like a stand-up paddleboard yoga class or something over the deep end. I don't know if that's, if that happens, but.
I'm trying to do.
So I would like to move to approve the implementation of a water volleyball league to be managed by the recreation coordinator as presented.
Second.
All right, any discussion on the motion?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Start off by saying, I forgot to divide the numbers by 1,000. So take out the last 5 numbers of each of those numbers. Those totals. That is not our revenue.
It's like, we could go for 0.06 cents and we'd still be saving much.
So Julie said.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. So Julie said, I asked her about it, but I don't know why it's not. And I looked at it and I go, because it's divided by 1,000. And I sent her the email, but my computer crashed shortly after that. So I didn't know she didn't get the email. So I apologize that we didn't get that updated in here. Yeah, so, or yeah, just divide. Yeah. Does that make sense, Dave and Jamie? On page 47.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
I didn't even pay attention to that. I had already in my mind taken off those last digits.
Well, I was thinking I'm not collecting $896 million this year. It's
been a long few weeks. So I wrote this, so our current rate that we're receiving is 13.7. I just rounded down to 13, used even numbers, and calculated. The resolution that I wrote, is for 25 cents. So this is where we discuss the rate.
So our rate currently is the 13.7.
Correct.
Do you want us to do a motion before we do discussion?
And so I guess my question is, why are we doubling our ask?
So
We're not doubling our ask. Our ask in the original levy was 20 cents. And what's happened as property values have increased, in order to not go over our statutory maximum, it drops the rate. So it looks like we're doubling it, but we're not. It's increasing by 5 cents or if you don't do it by that 5 cents and say you did it by 20, you'd be resetting it at the current levy that it currently is. We can't go over the statutory maximum of that set amount from that first year. And the only way to make sure that that doesn't happen is to drop it. Does that make sense? I seem to explain it and sometimes people look at me and they go, that doesn't make sense.
So, okay, so say
So-
when it was approved, the total that we got from the 20-cent levy was $900,000. We're set at $900,000. We're not set at the 20 cents. We're set at $900,000. So as inflation goes up, that rate goes down. So that's how we ended up at 13.7.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Dave.
At the last meeting, we talked about some needs on top of our operating expenses. I think the locker room and the HVAC system, if I remember correctly. Do we have a number in mind of those costs?
I don't. That was something I couldn't. I was on vacation and there was no way I was going to be able to pull that stuff together. I can tell you right now, the last time that we bid out, which was about a year and a half ago, the last time we bid out the locker room renovation and it wasn't like structural changes. It was, bringing it up to ADA compliance, replacing tiles, replacing lockers. It was going to be about $300,000 back about a year and a half ago. The HVAC system, we're guesstimating between $300,000 and $500,000. There were some other things too that the past board had wanted us to look towards in the future with the next levy cycle, and that would need to be revisited again if you wanted to do that, and so I don't have those numbers without knowing that information, if that makes sense.
Do you have?
Okay.
a-
Well, I
Well-
mean, that sounds like about $1 million, potentially 1.2 million if we're looking at some other projects. But that's not all in the first year. That should be spread out among the entire levy cycle.
Well, and that's what we've done with this current levy cycle. When I first got here, we capital expensed our projects out and what projects we were going to complete year after year after year. And so we do that as part of the budget cycle. So for the next levy cycle, what I would do at the beginning of that budget year is say, hey, this is what our capital project layout would be. We're just not there yet because we haven't gone through that process yet. Planning for something else, if that makes sense, right? And so that's where we got hung up, and I don't have those numbers right now. Because in our mind, this whole time we were going for that 25 cents, right? So I didn't have that.
So, well, in my opinion, I'm not comfortable assigning a number to this if we don't know how much we need. The 25 cents I think is too much to ask for. I think 20 cents is a round number that we did ask for last time, but we have to, in my opinion, we have to justify how we're going to spend that extra $300,000 to our taxpayers. Actually, it's almost $400,000 to our taxpayers.
And I know.
So if that means a year that we're going to be collecting.
I just popped a number in there, so that can be revised. But I know one of the things that the community has come to us about is building a pump track at River Valley. Have you gotten numbers from Clint?
About 150 is what he was thinking through the donations and stuff.
You mean BMX, right? Okay.
Well, it's actually, it can be used for BMX or mountain bikes or I can't think of the pedalless bikes for little kids.
Our next meeting, we have to put forth the language because it's due in August.
So this language is exactly mirroring the last levy.
Except for
Except for the,
We need to put a number in there.
yeah,
So how do we determine that number if we don't know what the expenses are going to be?
Well, I think that's part of what the board needs to set the goals for what they want those priorities to be, right? Once upon a time, the idea was that they were going to provide managers with health insurance. They did get something in place in the beginning, but I don't know if the eventual plan to further that health insurance and other benefits, if that was going to come into play in this conversation, because right now, I think it's 80% for the employee and 50% for the family. And originally it was supposed to be 100% covered for the employee. And then I don't remember what the spouses and stuff were at that point. But so we're not at that 100%. But then they also started funding it earlier. So then to the retirement, originally that wasn't going to start until the next year, but you have to look at what do you want your benefits to be? What we know that insurance, since I started here, our insurance went from 95,000 to 125,000. So we're expecting another 20% increase for the next 4 years because that seems to be the regular amount that we're increasing by. And so it'd be a combination of those is trying to forecast the insurance and setting the priorities of what the board wants to see us to maintain. We've also seen a 20% increase in utilities over the last 4 years. And so we would calculate those in as well to come up with those numbers. Another one of the big projects was replacing all the windows, painting the rest of the facility. We were only supposed to paint one wall this year and then paint the rest of the facility in the coming years to stop the degradation of the concrete wall. And so we can put price tags on it. I just couldn't do it between the 17th and today.
so
And also the other one, sorry, that I forgot to mention, was the board had wanted to work towards having 4 months of reserve. If
That's
so,
the next question. Where we got in the reserves.
so when I got here, we had 41,000 in reserve. And we're up to 251,000. 291,000.
Is operating capital for how long?
So like our payroll this month was payroll utilities expense, 128,000. So we're not at the 4-month mark yet.
Yeah, so I have a couple questions. So without coming to an agreement on the rate today, that means that we do need to keep the meeting on the 11th because this has to be done in July.
I would agree with the 11th meeting because I think today we're not ready to assign a number to it. I'm not, okay, let me rephrase. I'm not ready to assign a number to it today.
Jay, would that give you enough time to get the numbers with you and Shane and Jilly?
By the 11th, no, but later in the month, probably yes. The 11th will be hard for us because of the 4th of July events. There's a training in Spokane for finances that I was going to attend, so that's what she was asking me about. Not by the 11th, I don't think. I think that would be difficult for us, but probably the week after could work.
So another consideration is that if we're gonna turn around and try for the NPD, we're shooting up to 25 cents anyway.
Yes.
Okay.
The shooting up to 25 cents with the MPD also comes with a 50% vote and not a 60% vote.
But a hike after another hike is,
Politically, that's gonna be a difficult sell.
Yeah.
If we go for the MPD in a year, 2 years down the road, and we say there's gonna be no change, this is for your benefit. That's an easier sell than we want 5% more. Because we have to take it. Nobody's gonna believe that. And
they really won't, they already know.
I'm not opposed to doing the 25%. My problem with that is that we need to have some documentation or some type of a budget or some type of a plan to say, this is why we need that 25 cents.
So
we can't just say we want it because it's more money.
so David, question for you. In this particular instance, would you be willing on faith to put the cart before the horse? Because just from the laundry list of projects and the fact that our reserve fund isn't anywhere near where it needs to be, I'd be willing to say, okay, let's put the 25 cents on there, but at our next regular meeting, I want all the information of all the things that we can show that we need to do and how we're going to beef up our reserves, because I think that would be justification. Would that be okay with you based on what you've heard so far tonight?
I think that it's there. I think that the money, the need is there. But I think before this ever hits the ballot, before it ever hits the voters' mailbox, we'll say, it has to be written. We have to have a written plan of how this money will be spent. In answer to your question, yes, I can go on faith and say that I think it's there because I think all those things that were listed, in my opinion, are going to equal that amount. But
So I think
before this hits the voters' mailbox, I think it needs to be a written.
And that's the thing, what we're doing right now is we're agreeing to move forward with the ballot language. We're not putting anything in, until after we have our next meeting and we can put that in writing.
Yeah. And that is really going out on faith because what if it doesn't come out that way? But yeah.
Well, I'm going to make a motion to approve resolution 2402 as written for the 25 cents.
Any discussion on the motion?
With the caveat. It's not an amendment, but I do on our next regular meeting, everything that we talked about. I really need to see that because I'm where David is. I'm given a little bit of faith and latitude right now, but I need to be able to look somebody in the eye and hand them some bona fides.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
I,
Any questions on the staff report? I'm still working through getting back all emails. I hope to finish tomorrow from vacation. But this was everything I did before vacation. At the chamber event, supposed to be there, but for Melissa and or Commissioner Hartman and Commissioner Guy, it was a huge, I feel like, success. We heard a lot of positive things come from people. I cried, they cried. We gave tours out in the facility. People were really surprised to see how far the facility has come. I click my pen and it drives Brittany.
I have no questions.
Sure, I think I have an overall comment. Representative Paul's visit. I think it would be beneficial for the board to be aware when these visits are happening. I just happened to walk in the middle of it and I had no idea that it was a thing. So that's just my 2 cents on it. Just to keep us up to date.
So normally if it's for operational purposes and I report on it after I do it, but if we were going to do a presentation or like or we were getting a grant from it, I would totally have you guys there and invite you guys there and to be part of that. So is that what you're wanting when I go and I meet with people in the community about what we're doing and how we're trying to raise funds? You want me to let you guys know that ahead of time?
No, I think meetings with representatives at that high level, at least having not even an invitation, but just communicate that this is something that's happening. We'll look forward to the report later. Well, Chad's killing it. This is impressive. He's typical. Thank you for your work. And extend that time to staff.
Yeah, you see this on paper, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
A lot of good things.
And I apologize, the meeting's a little bumpy with getting out the packet and stuff. We're trying to find our new normal without Amanda.
One thing I would suggest is you can go into Outlook and create just a Teams meeting with the calendar invite, maybe go ahead and pre-set up the meetings.
So this was, I just forgot to get it on the agenda. She did set it up. She has set it all up. The mistake of it not getting on the agenda, that was me.
Melissa was able to find it, but I can't.
I have 2 meetings on my calendar and one of them has the team. But I think that's also my own thing. I think I scheduled it so that it fell on my calendar and I knew it was happening, and then I received the invitation from Amanda, so.
I do want to revisit a discussion we had, not a motion or an action item, just because it was brought up, that again, the possibility of the July 11th meeting, but we're not doing July 11th. Because we're gonna have that paperwork. They couldn't get it done by that of the next meeting.
Yeah, we'll keep it.
Okay.
So you're okay for it? You don't want to schedule another special meeting after the 11th?
No.
Okay, so at the rate, okay. Do that.
So I do have a question. Is there any feasibility in everything goes wrong with the levy for us to remain open in February? Election.
Julie can do some forecasting to let you know at the next meeting. But to say yes or no right now would be irresponsible of me.
Action items.
Said make an email to remind him to send us information about the sponsorships. Research how to amend approved minutes. Which you just have to bring up at the next meeting. Melissa, or Commissioner Hartman, if you want to. Work with program committee to look at the program planning budget sheets to figure out how to present program expenses in those planning sheets. Have numbers for the capital projects and for the levy asked by the regular meeting in July. And Julie to forecast what it would cost to stay open through the February election.
And the next to last one, in addition to the capital projects, also to get our reserves up to desired levels.
Okay.
So wait a minute, hold on. If we're gonna do a staying open till February election, how does that benefit us?
We wouldn't have the shutdown costs.
But we still wouldn't get money till 26. Even if it passes in the February election.
Well, that's good messaging to let our constituents know before the vote that the pool will close if this levy doesn't pass. That's
But the
not
February election doesn't change that.
right.
It just most likely will blow through our reserves. Most likely.
Which may not be the best
We were
use
doing
of the
some progress
reserves.
on a high note.
Here's a high note we can end on. An action item for the commissioners is to do the ED's
Yeah.
annual review.
And that's due to you 1 week before the July regular meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
And commissioners, please reach out as soon as possible if there's any information you may need.
The one thing that I didn't include was the past goals from the old board. Do you want those? I think Julie can probably find them somewhere.
I think that would be helpful for context. All of us new commissioners.
The date of our next meeting is July 25th.
Yes, sir.
I have a question or clarification. Did I miss like a discussion about special meetings for the remainder of the year, or was it just July 11th?
It was just July 11th for now.
August, don't we have a budget meeting? Like, I can't remember the date for it.
8.
That's not a special meeting, is it?
That's the budget review meeting.
So we have a meeting on July 8th.
No, August 8th.
No, August 8th.
Yeah, and it also wasn't on my calendar, so I don't remember hearing about an August special meeting.
Actually, if you don't mind, could you get a list of scheduled meetings to date out to the commissioners this week?
It's number 7. On this.
Okay, final board comment.
I said all you say.
Any motions?
I move to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Heard that, Jamie?
Good to see you guys. Well, see you next time.
Thank
Okay,
you.
see ya.
Bye.